You know, we're gonna pop in first time on because Mondays, y'all know we go All right, so let's get started with this discussion for tonight. The discussion tonight we were sitting back and really thinking about what haven't we touched on, what we haven't discussed, and we was thinking about the importance of having relationships and the importance of what's the backbone of each relationship. How could we have faith in people if we don't trust their habits? So we narrowed it down and said, okay, strong habits strengthen our relationships. We realized that was the case, you know. And this week on Let's Talk Relationships with Love Snobs, we're going to discuss the importance of maintaining good habits in our relationships. Our greatest fears is losing ourselves and others, but we will all enhance one another with strong habits. Finding a sense of self is the start. And when you are ready to share your life, our and their habits allow us to integrate seamlessly. So when you think of having great habits and another person have great habits and y'all agree with each other's habits, the relationship should start and be filled and have the foundation of great habits. You should go through life with them same habits, them similar habits that actually brought you together. Obviously, what distracts the relationship and what hurts the relationship is when you go and stray away from those habits. So if you're asking yourself right now, what is relationship habits? What does that mean? Having relationship habits. Anything that enhances the quality of life for everyone in the relationship, not just the individual. So if you go on that mindset, because we're only talking about relationships, we're not talking about how to improve yourself. We're talking about how to maintain your support, how to have accountable relationships, how to flourish and have healthy relationships in your life. And that's what we're always talking about. So we're talking about how do you keep a relationship? You can't be in a relationship still worrying about you all the time. Only way to keep a healthy relationship is making sure that all the bases is covered. Everybody that you allowed in your life, you decided that you was going to have a relationship with, anybody that you decided that you was going to bring into your fold, they're now a priority and now something that you're going to maintain. So you want to enhance their quality of life. That's the motivation. They want to enhance your quality of life. That's the motivation. If that's not the motivation from the start, it's not a relationship. So let's first start off with that. That's how you create the good habits. So go ahead.
No, God.
Okay, so we're going to talk about 4 points of acquiring and having these great habits. It first starts with a mentality, which we talked a little bit about 5 seconds ago. I am ready for relationship, therefore, I am ready to start acting with others in mind. That's the mentality it takes to create those good habits. If you believe I'm ready for a relationship, then you're ready to make sure your actions don't affect those around you, meaning your actions are always benefiting the people around you. You're not thinking of how could I get what I need to get from it. You're thinking how could we get what we need from this relationship.
Yeah, a lot of times, in relationships, we get so caught up in how the relationship is benefiting us, not really realizing that it's two people within the relationship. So both people should be benefiting at all times. And it's easy to get caught up in your needs. But if you're thinking about the needs of everyone, and if the other person is thinking about the needs of everyone, then everyone should be okay.
Definitely.
But we are sometimes selfish, and it's really about what we can get at the moment, not really realizing how that can jeopardize the relationship. Because there's selfish although the selfishness is present within the relationship, or it's apparent, a lot of people don't really address it. They kind of just start to kind of like um they'll handle it in different ways. So it kind of breaks down the relationship without making decisions or having the conversation. So
Yep.
it turns into I worry about me, you worry about you, but yet the conversation is never had about what changed within the relationship.
Definitely. I mean, and it's just a change in mentality. You know, if you've been through trials and tribulations, you had traumatic situations, you have been going through life, and really just been trying to get yourself together, then yeah, you're really focusing on whether I can get myself together, whether I can get back on the same page, whether I have the support. And you might have community-based, programs that are assisting you with those things. Those aren't your friends. That's a support system put together to support people that have the same similar trauma, similar experiences, but we can't build a relationship off our trauma. So you might meet a person there, y'all might have things in common trauma wise, but you got to make sure you have the same goals when it's saying the mentality is I'm ready for a relationship. So I'm ready to enhance this person's life, not I'm ready to share trauma. I'm ready to go through the trauma together. I'm ready to have the support. Support comes in many facets. Yeah, trauma is one of them. You're going through a trauma, your friends and your spouse and are they there to support you through a trauma, but they're not there primarily to support you through a trauma. They're there to help you get through the trauma and hopefully start your lives together. So the whole point is that's one aspect, but the main focus of a relationship is to be in each other's lives on a day-to-day basis with the sole purpose to enhance one another's lives.
Well,
So
yeah,
when you go ahead,
no, and enhance, and like you said, in a positive way. How many
definitely.
times do we meet people at work
Well,
and become,
enhance is positive. So
yeah,
you can't enhance me negative.
well, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
How many times at work do we meet people, and because I'm miserable, they're miserable, so we connect, right, on the fact that we're miserable at the job, and we create this friendship or this relationship off the fact that we're both miserable at work, when really that's not. Although yes, it does help pass the time at work, and we're both miserable, but we really didn't create a foundation of a relationship that's of a healthy relationship that's going to help us for the long haul. So that's
Definitely.
another thing too. Like it's we get caught, like we connect on pain,
Mm-hmm.
we connect on drama, um, and because of that, we believe that we're tighter than we are, or we believe that they understand us better than most people. When in all actuality, if we remove the pain and remove the trauma, remove the misery, we probably wouldn't even speak to each other.
Yeah, that's what they mean by misery loves company.
Yeah.
It means when we are all when we are in a bad situation, like let's say I'm a person who drinks a lot, I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to surround myself with other alcoholics because we have that in common. So you're going to always find whether it's good. Let's say you decide to change your life around and you're now working towards actually benefiting other people and actually enhancing other people's lives. You're going to find people who are in that same mode. So it's not just misery loves company, happiness loves company. Love loves company.
Hmm.
So we got to stop looking at it as that's what Jerry was saying, misery loves company. But overall, we all love company. We just got to
But
make sure we mindful of the company we
yeah.
keep. You get what I'm saying? So that starts with the mentality of saying, listen, I'm ready to now enhance other people's lives. I'm not going to just work and move the way I want to move based on me being a single person. Once I decide to commit, I'm now committing to several people or a person, or these are commitments that I have to honor. So I can't just act accordingly as if what I do doesn't affect other people
And so
negatively and positively.
to correct your vocabulary is not I have to honor. It's like
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
you want to honor it. It's not have to. Like you're not punished. You're making a
Definitely,
case every day to honor the things that you agree to, which takes us to the next part, the agreement, right?
definitely,
We are. What did we agree on? Are we committed to the health of the relationship, and what does that even mean?
definitely.
Does that mean that?
The first thing it means is, what does it mean to agree? One of the agreements will give y'all four agreements that people could have to enhance their relationship. Four agreements. We're gonna promise each other to have a transparent dialogue. That's an agreement. Transparency doesn't mean that I get to decide when I talk and when I don't talk. Transparency means I'm honoring a value higher than myself. So whether I feel like I don't want to talk, I still have to honor that commitment
Yeah.
because we agreed to it. So whether it's going to cause pain, whether it's going to cause happiness, whether we're going to be transparent and start the dialogue because we promise to have a transparent dialogue. And that's the whole point of being in a relationship. So when we discuss a transparent dialogue, we're saying people make mistakes, yes, Tell on yourself. Don't have people find out that you made a mistake. Don't have them discover that you made a mistake. Because once you made that mistake, and yeah, you can make a mistake as a human being and give in to your desires. But the choice is when you don't say anything, you know that you chose it because you didn't say anything. So you starting to make choices after you made that mistake by not saying certain things. So that would be an example of transparent dialogue. I acted, and it probably wasn't something I'm willing to talk about. I'm fearful of the consequences, but I promise to be transparent. So therefore, whether I'm fearful of it, whether I'm scared to do it, whether I feel the outcome is going to be negative, I'm still going to put myself in a position to actually go through what I have to go through, because first and foremost, I promise to honor agreement of transparent dialogue.
Yeah, another example of transparent dialogue is addressing things in real time. So as things are happening, um, if it sparks a thought or even a feeling or emotion, address it,
Yeah,
and address it while it's happening. Don't let it sit with you, because a lot of times, and I
great point.
even for myself, like I know that if something's happening and I don't address it at the moment and I sit on it, it comes out in other ways, in ways that will even probably hurt the relationship, because at this point I'm like annoyed about it when I could have just addressed it when it was fresh. And maybe the thing is, like, we get so caught up in the emotion of it and not looking crazy, but at the same time, when you don't address it, you're looking crazy anyway. It
Definitely.
comes out in other ways, because the other person is at a disadvantage because they don't even know what's happening. They don't know that 5 days ago they did something or said something that had you in a different headspace, right? But if you address it at that time, then they are able to say, they can course correct. They could, like, whoa, that's not what I really meant, or you're totally off base with what you're thinking, and you're able to have the conversation. So transparent dialogue is also, instead of it's also being honest about what's happening in
In real
while it's
time.
happening. Yeah, in
Definitely
real
real
time.
time. And I agree with her. Like I gave the typical example of, like something big happened and you're fearful. But I agree with
All those
Jerry.
little things.
It's the maintenance of the relationship. I agree 100%. Like it's the day to day, because I think people, I would say Jerry's right about people have a harder time with those things. Like
Yeah.
you don't have any discussion. Transparent dialogue typically means stop having discussions by yourself.
Mhm.
Stop having discussions in your head when you have other people to bounce them ideas off of or them thoughts off of. So you're not alone anymore. So if you're having thoughts, see if they're accurate. If you're having thoughts about somebody, clear it up. If you're having positive thoughts, express it. Don't wait for
Take those,
tomorrow.
take
Don't
those
wait
little
for the
things.
next day. Wait for the present time that they're in your company, or you want to call them, or you want to text them. Do it right away, because you promised to honor that. And obviously, we're talking about having strong habits and having good habits. So that's one of the good habits when you're now agreeing to be in a relationship. Transparent dialogue. Once you get used to it, you'll never go back, because you'll understand, you'll see the freedom of it. Yeah, it gets you in long term discussions, it gets you in a lot of sometimes heated discussions, but you see the freedom of it. You're able to sleep a little better than other people that have a lot of demons they're holding on to.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
and it takes a certain level. It takes vulnerability.
Hmm.
It takes vulnerability to put yourself out there and say, hey, these are the thoughts that I had based on this conversation or this exchange we had. And I know that, I'm talking about the areas that make us feel uncomfortable, but, and again, transparent dialogue is also good for the positive, but we embrace the positive.
Definitely.
Well, most people do, right? If Aziz is like, you look nice today, I'm like glowing. He tells me I
But
don't
it's
look.
not about the embracing of it. It's more about the fact that I might not say you look nice today. And in my mind, I'm like, well, she already knows she looks nice.
Well,
That's
that
what I'm saying. So yeah, whether we embrace it or not, there's so many people that don't say it because they're having conversations in their head. Like I can now not say because I'm like, well, she already knows she looks nice. No, say she looks nice and then see what
or
happens.
you can say it, but that, to my point, like, you can tell me that I look nice, but have an issue telling me that I don't look nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you may feel like we talked about this in past webinars about how we manage people within our relationships. So we manage people through their insecurities a lot of the time. And one of the things would be like, well, if I tell Jerry that she doesn't look nice today, then that may ruin her day. So I just may not, I just won't say anything. Or you could passive aggressively say, hey, you gonna wear that today? Or you look tired, or like when you tell someone they look tired, that's not always a good look. So it comes out in other ways. But it's really just not managing the person through their insecurities and just being upfront about everything that you're thinking, even when it's putting you in an uncomfortable situation.
Definitely.
Even when you could think that the other person on the other end may not receive the message or receive what's being said in the way that you intended it to come out, or your intentions. Like, they're not, all they are thinking about is how they feeling in the moment, and thinking about your intentions. And that's what kind of like the risk that we take every time we put it out there. But you should be around people that's worth that risk.
Definitely.
And who's not fighting against it, and will take the time to understand what your intentions are, and not really lead with their insecurities, and know that the people that they have around them is in their best interest, and would only communicate things that's going to make them the best version of who they want to be.
Definitely. You have to believe in what you're doing, which leads us to our next agreement that is a great habit. Honoring our core values. You set the table and say that you strongly believe in certain things that actually allowed the relationship to it allowed the foundation, and it brought the foundation up, and it made the foundation what it is in the relationship. You know that you have to honor that, I mean, for a lifetime. It's not something that you just say, I'm going to honor today and it should change tomorrow, because people change. It's one of them things that don't never change about you. It's your core value. It's something that you value in life. So even when you are going through a stressful situation, or you feel like possibly somebody's offended you and you feel like hurting them, it's your core value that keeps you from going down that slippery slope, because you know you have people that are there for you, people that support you. So you're devoted, you're dedicated, you want to be dependable. So you know that that's going to make you less dependable. So you think before you act. So therefore, that's a core value. That doesn't change across the board. So whatever your core values are, and obviously we had a whole webinar about core values, but whatever your core values are, and we have 16 of them on our website that you can go visit and look up and get the definitions, and really, sift through them and really figure out what's your four top core values. But that's your commitment. That's what your commitment is based on. That's how you're going to handle every argument. That's how you're going to handle every disagreement. That's how you're going to handle people outside your relationship. That's how you're going to handle everything. So it's a good habit to fully be mindful of your core values when you wake up every morning. That's a great habit. Make sure you're honoring your core values. Make sure you're very focused on honoring each core value through the course of each day.
Well, it's going to allow the people around you to hold you accountable.
Definitely. It's also
Honestly,
going to do that.
if you whatever your core values are, a person that's in your life could say, this goes against what you told me you believed in.
Definitely.
And then it starts the dialogue, and it starts the conversation. And so it's really like a checks and balance within the relationship, and it's holding the person to what they said that they are, who they say they are, and probably the reason why each person connected to begin with. So even when emotions are heightened, you may be in your feelings, you may not be in a good space, either negative or positive, because even when you're in a good, positive space and you're happy and you're chasing fun, you can go back to your core values. Are you living within them? Because a lot of times, people, we chase feelings. So that's that in the moment it may seem positive, but is it truly positive if it's going against your core values? And then the negative part, like if you're living life and you realize that things are not really working out the way that you thought that they should be working out, or you're not really connecting with the right people, you find yourself in the same scenarios with different people, take a step back and think, am I living my core values? Am I honoring my core values? Like, what's governing me every single day?
Definitely.
And
what's governing my relationships
what's governing the relationships. Yeah. But
Definitely.
but you can do your own self check as well, because I mean, yes, we need each other to have that balance and support, but at the same time we also could do our own self check and self evaluation. If I'm disconnecting with you all the time, instead of allowing you to tell me every time I'm like there's a disconnect, or every time we're not on the same page, I could be reevaluating myself and saying, you know what, there's a big shift in our relationship because I'm not really honoring these three things. I'm not really honoring these four things. You should know what they are before someone comes to you to address it. We need each other. Yes, we bounce ideas off each other. Um, you see things that I may not see, but at the same time, like I should know, or even put the thought behind why there may be a disconnect.
Definitely. I mean, our faith, the bottom line is our faith is based on our core values. Who we see a person to be when they're not visually present or visually there. It deals with faith. We have to believe that they're doing all the right things and not put us at a disadvantage. So in doing that, once we know that their core values is X, Y, and Z, we can vouch for them. We understand what they're doing and not doing. We can think of 27 scenarios and know what they'll do in those scenarios based on their core values. So, not saying that every time you're going to be able to connect what core value goes in what circumstance, but at the same time, that's what your friends are for, because they're able to break things down based on who they're talking to. You have these four core values. They know that they have to filter everything that they're talking to you about through those core values. They may handle a situation differently, but based on your core values, they are asking or explaining to you to handle it this way, because you can't go to sleep at night if you betray a core value because you wanted to appease somebody, or you wanted to have fun that day, or you wanted to just go outside the box. That's where regret falls in. Regret comes in because you never regret something you believe in. You believe you did was right. So you
Yeah.
always regret something that you believe you did was wrong. And the unconscious thing that you did was wrong was betray your core value. You betrayed the person in the mirror. So every time now you look at yourself, it changes your whole perspective on how you see yourself. Why? Because you betrayed the core value. So 9 times out of 10, you're not working to get back in the good grace of the people that you hurt. You're working to get back in the good grace of yourself because you betrayed something that you hold near and dear. And now you can't even respect yourself as a person. You can't even identify yourself as a person. So it's important to have and honor your core values, because that's what creates your good habits within your relationship. So that's the foundation. The next is acknowledging our strengths and our weaknesses. And the reason why we say acknowledging your strengths and your weaknesses is a good habit, and why it needs to be present at all times, is because if we're honest with each other, some people speed. Some people go outside their lane. They know that they're not too crafty in something, but they want to be validated in that department. And if we're honest with each other, we each have people in our lives for certain roles. And 9 times out of 10, those roles is not what we're strong in. Those roles is where we fall short. And for them to actually lift us up in those areas, for us to have faith that they're in our best interest in those areas, because they are the person who's qualified in those areas. So we have to keep in mind every time we challenge somebody's strength, we are saying something about them as a person. I'm going to repeat it again. Even whether you're consciously doing it or unconsciously doing it, anytime you challenge the strength in a person, because that's why they think they're in their life. Once you challenge a person's strengths that you said was a strength, it starts to now, it's an attack at their character, it's an attack on why they're in your life, and it's going to be a bigger issue. So it's important in your relationships to keep the strengths with the strengths and the weaknesses with the weaknesses, but fully understand what each other's weak in and what each other's strong in, and fully understand what you're weak in and what you're strong in. So y'all don't cross paths and like you don't feel insecure when somebody's talking to you about a weakness of yours, like they're belittling you, when in turn they're just saying, this is my lane. Let me lead in this situation. Have those discussions. But at first, you have to first acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses.
Well, yeah, it's, when we're connecting with people, a lot of times we kind of just fall into roles, right?
Definitely.
We don't ever talk about it. Um, when we connect with people, we're ready figuring out what lane we're fitting in, right? Off the jump. Like that's natural for us to do. So
Definitely.
we're already looking for what part we're gonna fit into their lives. But the thing is to your point, we don't ever really talk about it. It's just that, he's messy, I'm clean, I'm the cleaner. We don't talk about it, right?
Definitely.
Or he
We
seems
don't solidify it.
yeah, we don't solidify it, right? It just happens. Like, well, and in my mind, you need me to clean, which I mean, it may not even really be the case, right? Or you are better with money, so the responsibility just falls on you to take care of the finances, but it was never talked about.
Definitely.
Or just organizing, just things that are like events or whatever the case may be. I may think that, I'm better at it, so I do it. And because, and I just kind of just fall into that role.
But you do it and don't really want to do it, but you do
Yeah,
it
yeah. Because that's what I'm getting to. Like, it's
you're
one of those
feeling the
things
void.
where I am filling a void in your life. We go into relationships wanting to fill voids in people's lives, right? And never talk about why
Or do
we're
we
doing what
even
we're doing.
enjoy it?
Yeah, exactly. So I may clean, right? Because I feel like you need me to clean, but I may not like cleaning. And then what is that going to do? Breed resentment. So I'm like, you don't, I'm picking up after you all the time. And you're like, well, I never asked you to. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to. We could have decided on a cleaning schedule, right? Like, I'll do this, you do that. Like, I didn't have to like clean up all the time. You know what I mean? But I chose that because I saw that there was something in my mind. I created what I thought was missing in your life. And that's what we do. We create what we think another person is missing instead of really having the conversation about what a person truly needs. Now, granted, you may see things I need that I may not even know I need, and vice versa, right?
Definitely.
But
You have to communicate. It
you
goes
have to
back
have
to transparent dialogue. So
exactly.
if you're looking at these habits that we're talking about, and we're just in the agreement portion of it. So this is just the second point we're making. In these agreements, you see how they all come together. Your agreements should always connect. You see how all these agreements come together. Transparent dialogue, honoring your core values. And now we're talking about strengths and weaknesses. But let's give a real life scenario. I have a friend that's a great cleaner. She cleans 10 times better than me because I'm messy, right? But I'm a better planner. So when she's cleaning, she starts over here because she's excellent at cleaning, but she's frantic while she's cleaning because she's not planning. She's not planning before she goes in cleaning. She just sees something that's dirty and starts from there. And then now she's overwhelmed because she started maybe with the easiest and worked her way up versus the hardest and worked her way down. I'm thinking for more, for more peace of mind, start with the harder things because now you're getting more done slowly but surely. And even if time is running out and you want to rest and relax, you have the smaller things that get done versus the larger things that get done that's going to still make your house or your environment look horrible. But if you get the bigger things done, now your house could look or your environment looks a lot neater and a lot more of a livable space. But the little things is just sitting there and you can get back to them and go back to them. So it's always great to plan before you go into something. So I'm a better planner. So we always have these back and forths with strengths and weaknesses. And we had to come to understanding like, yeah, you are a better planner, but I'm a better cleaner. So I don't never tell her how she should clean, but I'm always telling her how she should plan clean. So that's where these dialogues take place and where it's important because you're putting out fires before they become something bigger. And in that scenario, it became something bigger. And we had to sit down and examine it after multiple, maybe a year of going back and forth and not knowing what it was because we didn't even take the time to step to the side and really look at the strengths and weaknesses. So that's why it's important to identify those things. So we now know what lane we're in and where we're supporting. Because how dare I ever question how she's cleaning when I don't even have a clue on how to clean as good as she cleans.
Yeah,
You
and
know what I'm
also
saying?
yeah, and the conversation is important because a lot of things that we do for each other within the relationship, we want to be validated for, right? So it's important to have the conversation because I can't say like, hey, Aziz, you're better with money. Well, not even. So you're taking over the bills because obviously, like, well, not obvious. You're the better person at it, right? We
Mm-hmm.
never really discussed it, but you're the better person. I let you do. Then all of a sudden, I'm learning from you, right? And I'm picking up on your good habits, and I'm like, you know what, I'm ready now. Now I'm puffing my chest out, like I want to take over the bills, like I'm ready, but not having the conversation with you. I'm just like, why can I do this? Why, you know what I mean? Like now it's a
Now you resent.
it's as if you didn't allow me to not take over when
Definitely.
I took a step back to begin with. But when you don't talk about it, that's what happens. You know what I mean? Like, and also too, like something that you may be not as good at, you can also revisit it, right? You can
Hmm.
also say like, hey, I'm better at this now. Maybe we could redistribute some of the responsibilities around the house, and I could take on more, or you could take on less, or whatever the case may be. But it should all start with a conversation on why or who's doing what, basically.
And where's the strengths and weaknesses? Because
Yeah,
the strengths are actually going, like if you're not as strong as somebody in it, they're gonna get it done faster. So the whole
yeah,
point is it's more efficient
for
for the
sure.
relationships to work through each other's strengths, and that's all we're saying. If you're now constantly working through your weaknesses, everything's going to take longer. I'm going to have to explain to you. I'm going to have to cater to you. I'm going to have to make sure that you're validated. Like now we're working through you, and something that could have took 5 minutes is now taking an hour. So if you now now have a certain agreement to work through each other's strengths, we're not dealing with our egos. We're dealing with the effectiveness and the efficiency of growing our relationship, and that actually enhances our quality of life.
But before we move on, I want to say too, like if you're in a relationship with someone that they're great at everything and you're weak at everything, like that's a problem,
Yeah, that's not a good
right?
relationship. They're
So
not
if
equally
it,
yoked.
yeah, exactly. So if it's like, because that's what happens. Like I know that the first thought I had was at work, even though we're talking about personal relationships, but it's like taking on all of the workload because you're better at it,
Mhm.
right? But why are you better at everything? Like the whole point of us connecting with each other too is to,
You're hiring the wrong people.
yeah,
Like
pretty
the
much,
bottom
yeah.
line is you're hiring people
I'm hiring
because
the
they're
wrong
better at
people.
their job than you are at their job.
Yes,
Whether you're the manager or not, you should never hire somebody where you're better at their job than the other manager. You're just supposed to be actually managing the pieces. You're not supposed to be better than the pieces um in each of their field or their skill sets. So that's
so
I
if you're
think that
around,
would be the bottom line.
yeah, if you're around people that you're not, that everyone else is greater than you are, or vice versa, then yeah, you're around the wrong people.
Definitely. So the last portion of the agreement, which is going to be a little quicker, is we should never act against the relationship. So that's the bottom line. You should think about it every time you act. Make sure that your actions aren't acting against the relationship. So that brings us to our third point: maintaining the relationship. So there's several points in this. Take your relationship everywhere you go. We should be taking our relationships everywhere we go. We got to understand, to maintain a relationship, we have to understand that we're representations of other people now. Every time we go to a friend's house or a friend of a friend's house or a friend's family's house, we're representing that friend. We're representing that spouse. We're representative of who we're connected with. So you can't just act out because you see fit. You have to make sure you're consulting with other people. You have to make sure you're keeping other people in mind. And you got to make sure your actions don't, like we said before, don't act against the relationship. You take your relationships everywhere you go. It's very important to do so.
Yeah, the next point is always work toward common ground. Always be willing to have the conversation, whether it takes a minute, hours, a day, 2 days, 3 days, and not 3 days of silence, 3 days of talking about the same thing until you guys are on the same page. It's
That's
important
another
that,
habit in maintaining relationships.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's important that we continue to stay connected and work through everything we need to work through. Nothing's worse than getting that text from a friend saying, hey, we need to talk,
mm-hmm.
right? Like I know if you really care about the friendship, you're feeling super anxious. You're like, you're dreading the conversation, but you know that it's necessary to have the conversation.
Definitely.
Because without having the conversation, that it's gonna ruin the relationship. And maybe not even like at that moment, but over time. And so, and I mean, depending on who, who the people are and what the relationships are.
Mm-hmm.
But I know
But we only
personally,
talking about personal relationships
no, but
where
what I'm saying is
y'all
that I
actually
know people that well, I could just talk about myself. If
Mhm.
if I text someone and they don't want to make the time to have the conversation, then I'm moving on. It's just that simple, right?
We're just talking about living through health. So if they're not prioritizing, which was one of the parts of maintaining your relationship, if they're not prioritizing the relationship, yeah, you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
Like that's what people don't get. If you leave something up in the air, you cause somebody else to have to make a decision. So that's a guarantee. So when we talk about common ground, we're talking about working towards common ground, which is a part of maintaining a relationship and was a strong habit in maintaining a relationship. Is it's okay. We get lazy and say it's okay to disagree without leaving out the other component. It's not okay to stay in that disagreement. It's okay to disagree. It's not okay to not find common ground so we can move forward. If you disagree and you constantly just disagree and agree to disagree, you're never moving forward. You're always standing still on a treadmill. It seems like you're going somewhere,
Yeah.
but you're walking and going nowhere fast because you still disagree on strong points. You can't move forward without finding common ground. So if it takes a minute or an hour or even a couple of days, have the discussion, figure out how y'all can have common ground because y'all should mean something to one another. Which brings us to our next point, prioritizing the commitment over outside endeavors. Your people are the people you chose. They're your people. They're not there to wait for you to get successful and decide you don't want to have time for them. They're expecting your success to be their success. You're expecting their success to be your success. Y'all work on one accord. Y'all in accordance with each other. So the relationship should be what the relationship is from day one going forward. You should prioritize your relationship. You should make the time for your relationship. And if the time does, like obviously we have children, we do things where the time decreases somewhat. We should have discussions to acknowledge that that time is going to decrease. But the importance is prioritizing that relationship. The importance is you're always making sure that you and that relationship is in good standing before you have or you can actually move forward with your outside endeavors. You're not just doing it and then hoping the relationship still maintains.
Yeah, but when we talk about like, yeah, we talk about outside commitments like having children, and but that's why it's important that everything should everything should it should be one big pool basically. So
Mhm.
if I have kids, that doesn't mean that we don't hang out anymore. We just hang out different,
Definitely.
right? So the days that we were just doing adult things, we would be doing adult things at the park. You know what I mean? Like it just changes how we interact with each other. So when we say, I have children, so I can't really hang out. Yeah, going to the bar and going to the club, no, you're not going to be doing those things. But if you really truly still want to connect
Well,
with
maybe
people
the
that,
first 3 months.
huh?
I said maybe the first 3 months.
The
Maybe
first three
you
what?
the first 3 months, maybe you're going out and doing all those things still.
Oh,
But
but she was pregnant or just three
yeah,
months
while
ago?
they're pregnant, I'm talking about the
Oh no no
first
no
three
no.
months.
I fast forwarded pregnant. We had a child already.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that, like, after having children, and things are different because your time is, you don't have as much time anymore. You just get creative with that time. I'm not meeting you at the club. I'm meeting you at the library. I'm meeting you at this children's event, and things start to shift. That you truly want to connect with people, you make the time regardless of what's going on in their lives.
But let's take it one step further. Let's answer a serious question. You had 9 months to prepare. What friend doesn't know this is happening?
Yeah.
So throughout the 9 months, y'all having these discussions on about what is going to take to actually maintain the friendship once you have the child.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So you
Well,
know that things will change, and you know that they're going to need this a different type of support. And if you was with them through the 9 months, then it's going to be seamless to now start helping them and supporting them with raising a child. But if you like disappear for 9 months and then call them out of their blue and was like, "Yo, let's go handle this business," and trying to pick up where you left off, of course you think that it's the same friendship because you wasn't there to support them through the 9 months. But really, if they're your friends or let's say it's your spouse, they are aware that you are pregnant. They're aware that you're going through 9 months. And let's be honest, 9 months is a long time to actually reconstruct the relationship that's ahead of you. The new relationship is going to take to actually just like when now they're going their way at school and now they're out the house and Now that relationship changes. I have more time now, right? So everything shifts, and you have time because y'all have years together, and you have a 9 month span to really start having these discussions about the new relationship. So that's what we mean by prioritizing, meaning that person decided to have a child. Y'all talked about that person having a child. That person, oh, out of nowhere was pregnant, but then they said they're going to keep the child. They're talking to you about it. So at that particular time, the relationship's on a standstill because you don't know if the relationship's going to change. And now you're signing up for a different contract. At that time, you're saying to yourself, can I actually now be with this person and keep maintaining the relationship we have with knowing that they're now going to have a child? Once you say, yeah, you're in it, and the relationship is going to now be in this 9 month span where how could she still support me where when she's having a child, and how could I still support her having a child? Because there still needs to be adult time. So how is she going to make me a priority to actually still allow us to have adult time versus how am I going to now support her where now I know it's going to be adult and child time? That needs to be ironed out within the 9 months. So that's what prioritizing relationship looks like. It's not like things just come out of the blue. So that's an outside endeavor that's constantly, you get a raise, you get like these is things you know you're working towards. So you're talking to your friends about it, you're talking to your spouse about it. So when it comes about, you already have what needs to be done in place. The person just walks up and asks you the question about a raise, or they asking you a question about a high position. The first thing is I got to talk it over with the people that are near and dear to me. That's prioritizing relationship over outside endeavors. You're just having the discussion with the people before you give answers. If it's a spontaneous thing, if it's something that takes 9 months, you're actually going through the 9 months together and really figuring out what your relationship is going to look like going forward.
Yeah, and it takes having a conversation, which no one really
Well, a
has.
bunch of conversations. Yeah.
Well, a
A lot
bunch of
of conversations.
conversations, but yeah, it's one of those. The thing is that it's like you said, it's a positive, right? Bringing children into the world is, for the most part, a positive. And I say the most part because it depends. There's all these things, but bringing children into the world is a positive thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a friend that's like, I really don't want, like, I'm at a state, like, maybe they're young, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
you're having kids young. I didn't really want to have kids until I was in my 40s. Um, I'm not ready to take on that level of responsibility with you. Like, instead of just pulling back and not being around, that's a conversation that should be had, so that
Definitely.
when when both people reflect back on the relationship and where they are, they can both say, hey, we had the conversation. I want to have children at this stage in my life. She wasn't, she didn't really want to be that, be a part of that, life, like my lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
And we parted ways, right? Because we were different stages of our lives.
Definitely.
And that's what like, we never have
That's
those,
what prioritizing relationship looks like.
huh?
But people, I say, I agree. That's what prioritizing relationship looks like. Like people believe ghosting somebody is like the new nice thing.
Yeah.
Like you're hurting them more than you ever would with a discussion. You're hurting them more than you ever would by saying, now you're having a child. I didn't sign up for this. You and the person you having a child with signed up for this, but I did. I'm still used to, going out, doing what I want when I want. So if our friendship can't survive that, then we're not gonna be friends anymore. As opposed to just falling back and letting the relationship dwindle away. That's a coward way out. And you're hurting the person more with that because they don't know why you're doing what you're doing. Or they may know, but they assume it why you're doing instead of knowing from your lips, your mouth. So that's one thing you should consider. And the fourth and final the fourth and final point is keep the focus the focus. The focus y'all had when you first started, keep that same focus. When you wake up every last morning, we want you to ask yourself, what are the reasons we are still in each relationship? Answer that question every morning. If there's some question marks in that question, right away that person needs to get text, that person needs to get called, that person needs to be asked so we can have a discussion because those answers should be simple every day. And if it's not a simple answer every day, there's a glaring issue, and whether it's in your mind or not, it needs to be addressed. So you should be asking yourself, what is the reason we are in each relationship? Every relationship you're in on a regular basis, that are your personal relationships, the people you say I love you to, not just acquaintances, but the people you actually are spending time with, prioritize. Why are why am I still in a relationship? And I'm even saying, why am I still a parent? Like, wake up and say, why do I wake up every day and continue to be a parent? And if the answer still is what the answer is, the focus is still what the focus is, then you know you have no problem. But if the focus changes, you know that you're going through something. Whether you are disliking your child at this moment, whether you have an issue with something your friend did at this moment, or how your friend's not really showing up well for you, or your spouse, whatever it is, you know that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. When you ask that question every day, the answer should come back the same way, because the focus is the focus.
Yeah, it's important to know that too, because knowing why you are in the relationship you are in helps with you not being insecure within the relationship, right? Because
Definitely.
we project, right? So
Knowledge is
I
power,
don't.
like they always say. It's true.
Yeah. So if I don't know why I'm in the relationship I'm in, and I'm thinking, and if I'm in my head, I'm automatically thinking the person I'm in the relationship with don't know why they're in a relationship with me, and then you start to spiral, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
start to have all these negative thoughts. So as you hit these bumps in the road along the way, you're thinking like, well, do they even want to be here? Like, you're having all these like negative thoughts. So knowing why you're doing what you're doing helps you
No,
stay on
knowing
track.
what's the reason.
Huh?
Knowing what's the reason,
Knowing what's the reason
yeah, is important.
keeps you on track.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps you, like, even when you wake up and you may not feel yourself that day, you have something to pull from, because you know what are the reasons why you're waking up every day, you're showing up every day, you're doing what you're doing.
Definitely. Which leads
When
us to the why.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is it important to honor our agreements?
Yeah.
Don't be a victim of your relationships. Do not be a victim of your relationships and your agreements. Why do I continuously honor my agreements? It should probably be because they benefit me in the long run.
Yeah.
Even though they don't benefit me in the moment all the time, it's because they benefit me in the long run. We always say relationships are not a sprint, it's a marathon. And the marathon is because you see the destination. You know there's an end goal, and you know you're working to accomplish it. But you're running miles and miles and miles and miles with fatigue and fatigue and fatigue to get there. So with that fatigue, you're not always at your best. That's why we have other people to pass us some water on the sidelines, to drench us with water, so we continue to run and we continue to chase our goals. And we reminded on why the goal is what it is, and we don't stop working towards the goals. Why is it important to honor our agreements? Because without the agreements, there's no relationship. And we can pretend like we're still in a relationship, but once we're living independent, it's not a relationship. We're just using each other's time. We're just being opportunists. And there's a big difference between being opportunistic and being in a relationship. Being opportunistic is saying, I'm using you to I'm misusing you to gain some advantage from you that's going to benefit just me. Being in a relationship is, we're doing this together to benefit each other. So understand that. Anytime you say I, you're not thinking of us. Unless you say I to remind somebody who you are for us. I'm not saying you shouldn't say I in a relationship. You're going to say I a lot because you are speaking from your point of view. But at the same time, that I should ultimately boil into we. It should ultimately pour into we. It shouldn't be how I'm going to get from this person. And that's it. It's a give and take. It's a boomerang. So why is it important to honor our agreements? Every day, wake up and say that. Every day. Know your agreements like the back of your hand. Know what you agreed to in each relationship, so you also know what you didn't agree to. I didn't agree to someone else being in our bedroom. You didn't agree to that. So once the person invites another person in, don't let them tell you, well, you have to be loyal. You got to stick by me. We're married, and the church said, no, once you broke the agreement don't exist anymore. Because we never agreed to let other people in our bedroom. If you keep the focus what the focus is, you won't get bamboozled by all the other things that people use, your other core values that people use against you to try to keep you there and put the mirage over your face or the wool over your eyes by not understanding that they broke the agreement first, not you. So when you walk away, don't let them tell you that you're being disloyal. They're disloyal. All you're doing is you're reacting to their actions. That's it. That's why you ask, why is it important to honor my agreements? You do your part, another person do their part, and it's seamless. And the last one is, Jerry, take it away. How?
Say it again.
The last one is, how can we enhance their lives today?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I was
ask
like,
yourself.
yeah, you have to.
You got caught in the sermon.
Yeah, I said I was. Yes, I was
He
like,
was like,
relax.
amen,
I was like,
amen, Aziz.
rocking.
Yeah, he was like, amen, Aziz.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, how can we like enhance each other's lives going forward? Like, it's not just about all these things that we discussed will help us, create those strong habits and maintain them. But also some things need to be revisited, right? So how could I show up in the best way every single day? How
Definitely.
can people show up for me in the ways that I need? Because things change. Life changes. We have children, we change jobs, health issues. Like as we get older, we may be dealing with health issues. Like there's so many different things. We start our minds are not as sharp as it used to be. So there's so many things that we're dealing with as we progress in life. So we need to always take it back and think about how are we still enhancing each other's lives based on the current situation, but not just switching up, having the conversation.
Definitely.
Don't just assume you're just feeling a need and just go do it. Let's talk about it. And
Yeah.
then we can start to redistribute roles and responsibilities, talk about strengths and weaknesses, where I may have needed you before, I may not need you now. Like as you said, kids get older. So the support that I may have needed when my child was between 1 and 10 is way different between 10 and 15,
Definitely.
right? I have, or 15 and 20, or 15 and 18. So it's important to always take a step back and think of ways that we're still continuing to enhance each other's lives as things start to shift within the relationship within us and as we get older.
I'm just saying, every day, all these things we're talking about is habits. Habits are formed by daily practice. It's doing it every day, being mindful of it every day. So if you wake up every day and say, how can I enhance their lives today? Every relationship you're in, run down every relationship you're in, get a checklist and say, how can I enhance their life today? Now, let me give you a magic trick. Let me show you a magic trick. If you're saying, how could I enhance everybody's life in your life today? And you have everybody around you saying the same thing, let me show you the magic trick. You never have to think about yourself because you got 7 other people saying the same thing on how they can enhance you. So you got 7 people coming right back to you when you're going out to those 7 people. So it goes full circle. So that's the magic trick. So when you hear the love snob say when you with the right people, you never have to worry about yourself. And the problem in the relationship is when you start having to worry about yourself, that's when there's glaring problems. Great habits mean that you never have to think of yourself because you always have people around you that have great habits. And one of those great habits is thinking about how can I enhance their lives today. They're always thinking about your best interests and seeing you succeed and taking a load off of you. They may come over and say, let me take the kids out. You just relax. Just because they have a day off and they're going to give you half of their day, and then they spend the other half of the day taking the load off and getting ready for the next day for work. But they just split time with you because they know you get no days off. Little things like that. That's the magic trick. If you got to think about yourself, you're not in healthy relationships. You got to wake up and say, you know what? I gotta make sure I get this done, this done, this done. I'm just thinking about me. But also, if you're thinking about everybody else and nobody else is thinking of you, that's also a problem.
Yeah.
The magic's not working. So we're here to teach you magic tricks. And the magic trick is, how do I enhance their lives today? How do I honor agreements? Right? So that's the reason. What's the reason I'm in each relationship? If you're doing all of that and you have those answers constantly, you don't have to put in a bunch of work to wonder, how could I maintain the relationship? The relationship maintains itself. Why? Because you have strong habits. And when you have strong habits, you don't have to even think about the relationship. It works like clockwork. Somebody's always there for you, and you're always there for somebody else. And you spend your life doing that. And not because you have to, but because you fully want to. So to wrap it up, because we have 2 more minutes to wrap it up, we're just going to talk. Today's discussion was strong habits strengthen our relationships. So first off is a mentality. Start with a mentality. Second, formulate agreements that you can live with for the rest of your life. Formulate agreements that's going to help you out flourish. Maintain a relationship. Prioritize, have discussions, find common ground at all times, and take the relationship everywhere with you. And the last one is remain focused on what the focus is. Ask yourself every day, what is the reason each person's in my life? Why is it important to honor every agreement that I said I would honor? And how could I enhance somebody's life today? You don't have time to be thinking about yourself when everybody else is thinking about you. The first time you start thinking about you, while everybody else is thinking about you, who's thinking about them? That's where the electricity stops. Because you stop the train. So keep all that in mind. You have strong habits in your relationship will work like clockwork. So this has been another, Let's Talk Relationships with the Love Snobs.
It's great. It was very informative. We'll have this up on our website so you can check it out. We'll have the 4 points and the details behind it. Share it, comment, let us know what your thoughts are. But in order to maintain healthy relationships, you have to put in the work. And this is the type of work that you should be putting in.
Definitely. I agree 100%.
Hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
And Anisha, if you're still listening, yes. If you deal with the strengths and acknowledge the weaknesses, the disappointment shouldn't be there, because you already know that the strengths and weaknesses, and you already know what they are. You already know what you're getting into. So it's time to start building together through each other's strengths and leave the weaknesses where they at, because you always have somebody who's strong where you're weak that's carrying you in that area. So you never have to worry about it. All right?
Thanks, Anisha, for listening.
Definitely.
And everyone, whoever's on Facebook as well.
Okay, enjoy.
Bye.